2024 was really the year when you lot decided to say goodbye to all your little annoyances in The Sims 4. I asked you lot, because it is a new year, what your favorite mods of 2024, your must-have mods for 2025. New year equals new mods. And I rounded up some of the favorites so that you lot watching this video could go and download them, see what other people have been playing with, what has been making their games flow better, actually adding more in-depth gameplay, and certainly some more customization, different options for how the game can look. Like I said, you lot really wanted to use 2024 to fix up those little gripes that you have with the game. So a lot of these are smaller kind of background mods that are actually going to change the game under the hood, change Sims autonomy, the way that certain worlds look, the way that weather works within the game. So let's check each of these out. What that means for me is some of these mods are definitely going to be harder to show, and I might not even have like actual in-gameplay footage of this stuff because it is under the hood a lot more. But the first two mods are by Vicky Sims, which I am going to have links to all of these mods down below if you want to go and see any of them. But this is the Smarter Self-Care mod by Vicky Sims. Mod allows your household Sims and NPCs to take better care of their needs and hobbies before getting uncomfortable from their motives going too low. I will say, this is certainly something I have particularly noticed. I feel since the release of Life and Death, my Sims' autonomy when it comes to their needs recently has been really bad. They will barely go to the toilet by themselves. They will barely have a shower if they're feeling dirty, unless it's like ridiculously in the red. So this one has actually come around at the perfect time for me. This mod also has the customizability that I usually love in mods, which is where you can really pick and choose which things actually affect you, which things don't. So you can just drag over the package files for what you actually do need. So if you're like, no, I like having risky woohoo locations within my game and I like my Sims doing that autonomously, you don't have to actually include this one. And please do keep in mind, only install the ones that you have for the packs that you have. So for example, if you don't have cats and dogs, you're not going to need to install this one. I mean, I can try my best to test this Smarter Self-Care. I can pretty much like put my Sims needs down and then see what they get up to. He did actually take himself off to read Lord of the Swings. Lane has also started browsing some books. Also wanted to play a little bit of chess, which he actually doesn't have like the logic skill. So that was kind of a different thing for him to do. But like I said, this one's kind of difficult to know what your Sims are doing because of the mod, or if they're just doing it, you know, because that's the way that they're built. I actually think the biggest thing about this is that your Sims will actually more likely reach for leftovers rather than cooking stuff, because that infuriates me. When your Sims just want to craft like one dish, like a single serving, and it's like, bro, we have like 4 different party servings in the fridge. Why are you not automatically grabbing leftovers rather than cooking again? Ooh, he's actually autonomously gone to join the cooking whilst his hunger is in the yellow. So it definitely feels like that's actually part of the mod. I've never seen a Sim like autonomously join someone when they're cooking. Actually gonna plop that into the fridge and see if he actually grabs some. Although I will say he is invested in this book. There we go. He's gone to grab a serving. So I mean, I didn't think that I'd be able to tell that this mod was working because it feels more under the hood, but I can definitely see the effect that it's having even from like a short amount of gameplay. Another one of your favorites by Vicky Sims was the Balance Life mod. Again, this actually now does have a version that is all merged, or you can have the separate modules, because when I first read read this, I was like, I don't really want the realistic basic metabolism. I actually really like how Sims gain and lose weight. So personally, I wouldn't want the metabolism. I also noticed a couple of people in the comments were like, it feels like my Sims are losing weight too quickly with this mod. Can you separate it? And this mod actually never used to be separated, but now it is. I do kind of wish the original like landing page that I was on had more information, but this actual Google site from Vicky Sims has it in more detail. So for the cleaning autonomy, there's more for young adult, teen, and elder, less for child and teen, obviously more playing toys for kids, fewer play for toys teen and above. There's also a ton of buff decay gone into a lot of the emotions, all again sorted by age. So I will actually leave both of those links down below so you can find out more information and actually go into detail about what this mod does. Now, I don't know if you actually know this, but if your sim has a low bladder motive, sometimes I feel like they can wee in the ocean when they're swimming in it. I'm fairly sure that can also happen in pools. And I don't know if this was a thing in past Sims games. I feel like it was somewhere down the line, but apparently a lot of people wanted this to be a thing because if you wanted it, there's a mod for it. And this is the Shower Bladder Reliever. It is by PolarBearsims over on Mod the Sims. And yes, it does exactly what it says on the tin. If your sim has like a lower bladder need and they actually get in the shower, they can pee in the shower, and that also brings up their bladder whilst bringing up their hygiene. Why not kill two birds with one stone? Taking golden shower to a whole new level. I was reading the comments before I installed, and it didn't seem to be happening in some people, so I've obviously lowered Lane's bladder need, and then I'm gonna send him into the shower. Boom, his bladder has gone up, so it is still working. It might not work for everyone. Anything that saves my time in the morning, which, to be fair, going to the toilet then having your sim automatically wash their hands when they could just get into the shower really actually bothers me when I'm trying to get them ready for work, because it just feels like it wastes so much time. This next mod by TwistedMexi is one that I have been meaning to download for the longest time. As soon as I found out that this was a thing, I was like, oh my word, this could save me so many hours of frustration within my game, because ever since we got that upgrade, and I hate to even call it an upgrade. It was an update. Was it an update that was needed? Absolutely not. But on the interaction wheel, where they added like all new different types of categories, and it just became hell on earth to like find anything you ever wanted in an interaction. TwistedMexi was like, don't worry, Simmers, I've got you. This is the Smarter Pie Menu Searchable. So basically, as you click on an interaction, you can just type in what you want to do, and the results will come up on the interaction wheel. I'm trying to think of an interaction that I always really find difficult to do, but if we type hug, there we go. We can hug, or we can hug lovingly. The text does actually crop up on your screen in the middle of the interaction wheel. Ooh, their attraction changed. There's definitely something that I always struggle to find, and I probably would even be able to find it now to like even think about it. It's usually the like small talk that I get overwhelmed with, because there's so many different things that you can do, or the hobbies and interests, because I'm always like, where is this? Like, what is this part of? If I want to flirt, we can just go flirt. If I hit enter, apparently they will just do it automatically. That doesn't seem to be happening, even if I like hover over the flirt. So hitting enter isn't really doing anything. I physically have to click flirt, but that's fine. I don't think I would ever hit like enter anyway to input that as an interaction. That just feels unnatural to me as a simmer. I'm so used to like the pointing and clicking, so I don't mind that that doesn't seem to be working. No, we are not going to give you a personality change. Oh my goodness gracious me. Let's not do a date right now. We have other mods to check out, Lane. I know you love being center of the tension, but not right now. Another small mod, but definitely necessary necessary if you play with this feature an awful lot, and it is Neighborhood Stories, again by the one and only TwistedMexi. This is the Neighborhood Stories viewer. They are the things that happen in the story progression of The Sims 4. I still hesitate to call it story progression because I still want that feature to do so much more and be so much more, and I think she could have if she only had time and dedication and effort put into her. However, if you now click on your mailbox to actually check those stories, there is a dedicated notification space, so it no longer has to come up one by one, get mixed in with all your other notifications. It's in its own dedicated space, still takes up the same amount of room, but you're able to see them all in one go rather than clicking through them one by one, which is just way easier for the player. Because I have just started this save, I don't actually know if we'll have any recent neighborhood stories. Nothing of note has happened recently. Check back tomorrow. But as you can see, this is a much lighter blue than the original notifications panel, even though it comes up on the notifications wall. But once you actually hit this, this is where your actual notifications are. That's how you can tell that they are completely separate. If there were any neighborhood stories, they would all just pop up in that other tab. Unfortunately, make sure that you have read all of them. Make sure you've seen all of them before you close it, because it doesn't actually carry over. It doesn't save. It's refreshed every single time you check neighborhood stories. Now you can see how it actually looks with the notifications. So we have a couple of dating, although I don't think this has still yet been fixed, so that's probably not even true. The Roswell household recently rescued a horse. And then if we actually close that or open up our usual notification wall, if we then go to recheck our neighborhood stories, unfortunately nothing of note has occurred. So that's what I mean. Make sure you check everything before you close out of it. I've definitely talked about this mod before. I actually haven't had it in my game for a while, and in every wish list video I do, I feel like this feature gets mentioned, but it's never ever brought out officially. But this is Remove Sims from Conversations by the Pancake One and MizoreYukii. Basically, this GIF explains everything you need to know, but if you've ever been out like with Sims and random Sims join your conversation, which happens all the time, it can really mess it up if you're like on a date and you're in like a flirty situation, because it'll make Sims really awkward and then your Sim will get embarrassed and then it's really hard to romance someone. This basically allows you to click those Sims that you no longer want to be part of your conversation, right click them in that little conversation toolbar that comes up, and you can just remove them from your conversation. They'll no longer be a part of it, and it is just chef's kiss. It is perfection. Olive's made her way over to the Crow Festival and is currently in a conversation with like 4 different Sims. So we have Katrina, Jeffrey, Victor, Aziz, and Panya. Let's say, for example, I mean, I didn't want Panya to be part of that conversation, but let's say I didn't want Aziz to be a part of that conversation. All I have to do is right click on Aziz and we stop interacting with him. He's no longer part of the group conversation unless he comes back, which usually happens in The Sims 4 anyway. They're always gonna stick their oar in, but you can just continue to right click to remove them. Like I said, this is definitely most helpful when you are on dates or doing romantic interactions and you don't want anyone feeling embarrassed, or you don't want it to feel like all the NPCs are third wheeling you. Another mod that I have talked about in the past, and that also allows you to have way more control over other Sims within your game that you don't actually currently have in your active household, is the Control Any Sim mod. This is by TitanNano. This mod lets you take control of any Sim in your game. Most NPC Sims will have a new interaction on them in the Actions group. This interaction allows the player to either make an NPC playable or make them unplayable again. Once a Sim has been made playable, they can be controlled like a household Sim, but they're not actually like added into your household, so it really doesn't mess anything up. So if you want to be able to control a Sim for a storyline, or have them react a certain way, or maybe do an interaction that's not usually available if they are just an NPC, this is the mod for you. You can remove them at any time. Like I said, it won't mess up your active household. I do this a lot in my storytelling and like physically move a Sim in or have them come for a stayover, but even when they're there for a stayover, you can't really dictate what they're doing. So this is really, really helpful if you just want more control over your stories. Let's actually say that I wanted maybe Victor to be a little more welcoming, and I felt like he wasn't really going about it. I could go on actions and then I could choose to control this sim. He actually does get added to my household, but he's technically not in the household, don't worry. But now I can actually control him as well without affecting like his active household. He still has all his relationships. Again, this is just really handy if you want to like maybe you have UI cheats and you want to get up someone's friendship or relationship with someone. You can just like control them. You can edit their relationship using UI cheats. And then you can just again go to actions and you can say don't control sim. This will remove him. Bada bing, bada boom. Again, if you're maybe on a new love struck date and you actually want to be able to control your sim without doing like the suggest date to paint stuff that actually came with love struck, super easy way to do that. Just gives you way more control over your storytelling and is definitely a mod that I constantly am like, oh yeah, I need to download that back into my game because it's so handy. I also think it's really good for stayovers. Maybe I should test that it definitely works with stayovers. So let's go social. Let's plan a stayover. We'll do Katrina Caliente. We'll just do one night. She's waiting to be picked up. She's like, oh, I don't know Ravenwood that well. Let me just wait here for my host to collect me. During a stayover, you could just form groups, but there's only certain interactions that you can do like as a group to actually control your stayover guest. So I could instead just go actions. I can control that sim. She'll technically get added. Oh, she's jealous of other couples. And then I can just have her like choose the bed that she wants to be in. I can have her cook. I can have her do whatever as a playable sim. But then once I actually decide to play as another sim, she will just work like an NPC. She'll take care of herself. Also, I guess a little bit handy if you are using for rent as maybe an extra room in your house and you're like, for example, renting that out to a family member. Obviously, their room will be cut off, but I guess you could technically like add them to your household using this mod and then have them do interactions using this mod, which makes it feel like they are actively part of your active household and you don't have to constantly switch between the two. Honestly, this mod works even better nowadays with the recent packs that we've got than it did when I previously had it. A lot of you really seem to love the first impressions mod by the one and only Lumpinou. Lumpinou is one of my favorite modders for this game. I absolutely love everything they touch. There was an awful lot of other Lumpinou mods that were suggested, but they were mods that I've kind of already talked about on my channel, such as the RPO mod and huge massive overhauls such as like the pregnancy overhaul that Lumpinou has done. If you're looking for in-depth gameplay changing mods, Lumpinou is definitely the person for you. You can actually meet a sim and based on the traits that they have, your sim can form a first impression of them. So for example, first impression, annoying. Sentiment of dislike. Well, Marie has barely met the sim, but already finds them notably annoying. And then first impression, clingy. I am definitely excited to see if this actually changes the relationships between those sims because I personally always feel like sentiments don't do enough. They do actually add some moodlets from interacting with crush. Good people finds it interesting sometimes to interact with sims of high morality and will. Do they like me too? So there are different moodlets for different first impressions. We just saw two that were to do with crushes. First impressions mildly impact romance and friendship development, which is so good. I mean, it does only say mildly, but that I am definitely impressed with. For example, a sim is 4 times more likely to start interacting with a sim they crush on rather than a standard sim. So it definitely plays a role when it comes to autonomy and how they actually interact and how their relationship is made up. Olive's definitely made some first impressions already, so we're gonna open up their profile. First impression, responsible. This sim appears to be a very responsible person, capable of taking care of stuff and willing to care for others. Hers about us is imaginative. There's something creative and imaginative about the way this sim appears to see the world and interact, which makes them interesting. Olive feels that Victor is shallow, sentiment of dislike, and then he feels that she is in dreamland. This sim appears to be a little bit in their own bubble of imagination, a dreamland of sorts. It hasn't affected their relationships too deeply, it's just she's not as high of friends with Victor as she is with Katrina. Another one from Lumpinou, one of my personal favorites. This is the science baby tweak. You actually have a little bit more choice when it comes to the science babies. Usually when you have a science baby within your game, you're instantly just gifted with a baby from the get-go. However, on this one, you can still have that insta baby, or you can actually go through pregnancy. Just keep in mind, whoever is doing the science baby interaction is the sim that will be carrying if you choose to go ahead with pregnancy. Really quickly, do you just want to test the gender details? Get others pregnant. I know you can't see that, but that's currently what is selected. I actually might need to download Lumpinou's toolbox library mod. I like when I run into these things when I'm doing videos like this, because it means that I can bring it to your attention. I did actually have an out-of-date version of the toolbox library mod. Now it has come up with, congratulations, Lane is expecting. There's going to be a new addition to this household. Also has a little baby bump, is already in the first trimester, so it still goes through normal pregnancy rates and everything within the game. However, it has overridden the create a sim setting, so it is just whoever does it on the phone. The one and only TurboDriver, thank you so much. I didn't even know that this was a mod that was available, so thank you to those of you who suggested it. This is actually something that I'm shocked that we don't actually have within the game, but this is unlimited jobs plus. Get hired to as many jobs as you want at once. That unlocks the possibility of joining multiple careers, part-time jobs, and freelance trades all at the same time. All careers, part-time jobs, and freelance trades are supported and compatible, including custom content careers. Now, Olive actually does already, not the fee, but has a job as a mortuary assistant. Girl, I don't think those are eggs and bacon. Can I just say that bacon is made with something that definitely isn't a pig. But if this mod is working, then she should be able to get a second career. I don't think you can have a second job that actually overlaps with the hours that you already do. So they're 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. This door should definitely be locked. Katrina, you really don't want to be here. I'm just saying. I'm trying to look out for you. James would cry if you came down to her basement, but we're gonna get her into a freelancer career, and then I think we'll do electrified artists, and she should, there we go, now be able to be a freelancer and also a mortuary assistant. If I wanted to, I could also maybe go for something before 9 a.m. Let's see how many careers she can have. We're gonna find another job. Usually I don't think that would even be an option without this mod. I think once you've got one job, you can't have another. You can't have like a full-time job and then a part-time job. But this time, let's go part-time, and then I think probably fisherman. Oh, but that's till 9 a.m. But technically it doesn't overlap. Or we could do 9 p.m. till 1 a.m. because that definitely doesn't overlap. And now she has 3 different careers. So she can really do freelance artist whenever she fancies it. And then she's on schedule for being a fisherman and also a mortuary assistant. If you needed even more things to do in your game to eat up your Sims time, honestly, I feel like this is way more realistic. Next up is the Weather Realism Overhaul. This is by number 12 over on Mod The Sims. The Weather Realism Overhaul changes the way the game handles weather events and forecasts to make weather more realistic. In the unmodded game, a cloudy day will always be cloudy. With this mod, forecasts can be unpredictable. A day forecast to be sunny can instead have rain showers, or a day forecast to be rainy, it can remain cloudy. Weather for all worlds have been remade to match real world locations using this temperature scale, and you can choose to have this in either Celsius or Fahrenheit when you actually download the mod. Another new mod that kind of affects your Sims world rather than like gameplay or anything like that, it is by Simsiboy, and it is the matte replacements. It revamps your Sims 4 worlds with this backdrop replacement mod. Say goodbye to EA's 2D backdrops and welcome new 3D backdrops that will make closed neighborhoods feel a little bit more open. So it's definitely all visual. Obviously, you can't ever really go to these backdrop areas of the world. However, we do know that when you are in tab mode and you go all the way to the side of the map, usually it is extremely 2D. It is paper thin and it just basically looks like a cardboard cutout, whereas this makes it definitely look more realistic. Then another one that was suggested alongside this was Simsiboy's matte tree replacements. I'm assuming makes them look more realistic. I feel bad for the matte replacements because I feel like I'm not the type of person who usually like looks at the backgrounds all that much. I'm just kind of used to them being awful looking and like very 2D. I mean, this doesn't look 2D right now. I guess maybe if I traveled to a base game world or maybe somewhere like San Myshuno, I'd be able to see it a little bit more. But I just feel like I personally don't pay too much attention to how things actually look in the background. Over here, you can kind of see that. I feel like these mountains would have probably looked awful originally. And then these buildings all kind of look way more 3D apart from heading on over like to even further away ones. I mean, it looks good from what I can tell has actually maybe potentially changed. That maybe of Chapel Roan in Sabrina Carpenter's Netflix Christmas special lives in my brain rent-free. Your Sims are gonna be eating so good. So many of you actually suggested and said that you physically could not live without the modders in this community who actually create more foods and more recipes for your Sims. So there are 3 that most of you actually suggested to me, and those were the one and only icemunmun. icemunmun does actually have at least one official recipe within the game from when they have actually collabed with creators, but there are a ton of different foods that icemunmun, these are all things that your Sims can create, they can actually cook, and they all do look incredible. Ice dragon eggs. I mean, come on. If you've been playing this game for the last 10 years and you're kind of getting sick of the same old recipes, you just want to zhuzh up your game a little bit in small little details, food can definitely be a way to do that. I also think it just makes the game more accurate to you. And there's also a ton of representation when it comes to food, especially if you want to focus on like specific worlds that we have within the game. There are also more themed foods, like as you can see, these are mostly for October. Then there was Brazenlotus, which looking at all of this genuinely just makes me so hungry, but there's pages upon pages of new food that your Sims can create. Red velvet heart cake, that's so cute. I'm definitely gonna have to step into the world of custom recipes. And finally, there is Littlbowbub over on Patreon as well. Granny's Cookbook, I know, is a mod that so many of you can't live without. Theirs are actually all split up into like toddler foods, snacks, barbecue drinks, baking skill recipes. I, for one, am sick of baking skill. I wish that they would update it. I guess really good if you do actually like adding baking onto your Sims holidays. If you have the Sims for seasons, you can definitely go for more themed stuff and maybe gift them to Sims, gift them to crushers if you like have high school years. If you're looking to spice up your Sims recipes a little bit more, definitely go check out those 3 simmers. And finally, another simmer where I didn't actually download their mods because there were just like so many, but a fair few of you said that you couldn't live without simkatu over on Patreon, and they actually create like animation overrides. There's also this one which definitely caught my eye, which is extended phone calls. This mod adds over 500 notifications and 30 buffs to phone calls based on Sims relationships and ages. So here's what's going on in my love life, a real mess, right? And then you also get different moodlets depending on how those conversations went. New interactions that your Sims can actually do. This is asked to learn how to kiss, which is actually such a little sweet interaction. Functional doties, it sounds so unnatural to call it a pacifier for your infants or toddlers if you want it. I feel like a lot of these would be considered small mods in the grand scheme of things, but definitely helps to make your Sims game feel way more realistic. And those are the types of mods I think that sum up the whole of 2024 going into 2025. I'm definitely going to keep some of these in my game for 2025. Thank you to those of you who reminded me of the like control any sim, because I definitely think that makes sense for me to have in my game. And if you've been struggling with any of these like minor details or with the new updates that we've had that really don't make things feel intuitive anymore, then I hope these mods helped you out as well. If you have any mods that you want to suggest to fellow simmers, do not hesitate to leave them in the comments down below. Are there any that we potentially missed off? Usually when I tweet about this, I'm like, please don't include the big mods, you know, like UI cheats, MC Command Center, RPO, for example. I've already done videos about those, and also you see them pretty much every day in my game, especially when it comes to UI cheats or more columns mod. Like I said, I will have a link down below linking to all of these. A big thank you to the modders and custom content creators. You lot truly make this game easier to play. You keep it fresh, you keep it young, you're the cool mum, and I appreciate you all. I will not hesitate to call you mother if you want it. I know that not everyone wants that title, but thank you lot as well for all of your suggestions. I had a ton of fun recording this video, testing out these mods for you all. If you found it helpful, let me know, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.